all over my social media, I've just been getting flooded with videos on, or at least things to do surrounding like World War III or, you know, USA, Iran, all of this stuff. And, you know, YouTube just being that algorithm pumping, efficient platform is just going to start recommending you stuff. And lo and behold, this is how I came across this video, guys. This is how World War III starts, USA versus Iran. Now, this video, I'm doing this video as well, just to bear in mind, I don't want to fearmonger. Do you know how many times I've heard World War III rumors being able to start? Like, and my whole thing as well, I feel like, especially when it comes to the media, I feel like the way they control people as well, they can get people to fear stuff. And the more they can get you to worry, it's like you're very easily manipulated and stuff. So already when I see headlines like this, oh, World War III, I'm already naturally skeptical. I'm like, okay, let's calm down now. Let's just see, you know, what's really saying here. Let's look a little bit deeper into, if it was to start, what are the dominoes that fall in place. And yeah, I'm also curious as well, to kind of dive a little bit deeper into this myself. But yeah, guys, look, if you're on this channel, don't forget to subscribe, as you can see, road to 60K above me. And don't forget to smash that like button, especially if you want to see more of these types of informative videos, and just, you know, join me in the journey of curiosity, guys. You know, this has been a fun journey so far, and we've learned so much. But yeah, guys, look, enough jibber jabber. With that being said, let's dive on into this one, shall we? Let's go.
Iranian missiles rain down on the U.S. base. With terrifying precision, a new generation of maneuverable warheads slips past American Patriot interceptors. In just 20 minutes, the devastation is staggering. Over $500 million worth of F-35s and advanced U.S. combat jets are reduced to smoking wreckage. And if you think the scenario is purely fictional, then you don't know how close to full-blown war we currently are. For 2 months, the U.S. has been strengthening its forces in the Middle East. At Diego Garcia, deep in the Indian Ocean, sit 6 B-2 Spirit bombers, America's most cutting-edge operational aircraft, and the only one slated to carry the GBU-57 bomb.
Right.
These aircraft, and the 2 GBU-57s that each one carries, are a critical threat to Iran because of their ability to evade air defenses and destroy deeply buried underground military structures. But the U.S. also has sent dozens of F-35.
Do you know what's crazy about this video? This came up before it even. I swear that's literally what happened, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. Like, didn't that literally just happen? What is talked about in this video? Who's watching after? Yeah, okay. See, I knew the comments would be saying something like that. This aged well. Yeah, this did age well. However, I'll be curious to see if they continue to predict. Well, I obviously don't want World War III to happen, but it's to say, I'll be curious to see just how much they predict in this, in a sense. Because I don't think, World War III obviously hasn't started, so they can't be all the way right at the moment.
And other combat aircraft, including F-15s, F-16s, and A-10s to the region. This is not a part of our fictional scenario. This is currently underway and preparing the way for a major strike against Iran. But Iran won't take it sitting down. And as advanced as America's air power is, it's completely helpless on the ground. Setting the stage to the conflict is simmering tensions between Iran and the United States. One of the first acts of the new American administration was to put maximum pressure on Iran. The president is seeking a new deal with Iran to ensure that it doesn't become a nuclear power. The only problem is, Iran refuses to negotiate with the White House, and from their point of view, why should they? America has proven that its word is worthless. It previously signed a deal with Iran to loosen sanctions in exchange for giving up its nuclear ambitions. Then, a few years later, despite being in full compliance, the deal was torn up. In the following years, new deals were proposed, and with the new administration in the White House, progress has stalled completely. America's subsequent attacks on allies and threats to invade their territory has only made the United States an increasingly unreliable negotiator. So, Iran has demanded third-party talks over its nuclear program. The reason for this is that if it can get a third party, like Qatar or the UAE, to mediate talks, well, then they'll become politically infested. Another betrayal by America will have political ramifications for the third nation as well. It's a strategic move to ensure the U.S. keeps its promises, especially now that its reputation on the global stage has taken a hit. For Washington, though, this seems like an insult, and so talks are currently being refused. Instead, the U.S. president has ordered a massive military buildup in anticipation of military action against Iran. In response, all of America's Middle Eastern allies and partners, save for Israel, have shut down their airspace to U.S. combat aircraft, limiting the routes by which U.S. warplanes could approach Iran. This dramatically increases the threat to American aviators, even those flying B-2 stealth bombers. It makes their approaches very predictable, allowing Iran to concentrate their air defenses in specific areas. So, how would any potential conflict play out? Internal politics within Tehran are at a boiling point. The regime is increasingly unpopular and slowly losing grip on the population. The people of Iran are starting to embrace increasingly liberal values over the strict conservative religious order imposed on them. Headscarf mandates are being challenged by both men and women, and clashes with the secret morality police are frequent occurrences on social media, inflaming tensions.
Every woman,
with the secret morality police are frequent occurrences.
Every decent Muslim woman should cover her face with a headscarf. Yeah, so it seems like there's a lot of societal unrest, at least in terms of how women are like kind of speaking out against, you know, the way things are with. You guys know what I'm trying to say. I'm just wording it so weird. But yeah, you guys, it definitely seems that there's a lot of political unrest right now. At least at this time when it was going on. I think it's still to this day, no.
On social media, inflaming tensions. The American military buildup comes hot on the heels of Iran's embarrassing failure to strike at Israel in one of the largest missile attacks in history. The October 2024 attack saw over 200 missiles launched at Israel in 2 waves, but the only direct casualty was a Palestinian civilian who was crushed by the debris from an Iranian missile. The attack wasn't just a major success for Israel and its allies, but a massive embarrassment for Iran. This was after a previous failure in April 2024 when it launched the world's largest drone attack and achieved similar results. The Israeli dismantling of Hezbollah and the near total annihilation of Hamas has sent shockwaves across the region. And with Iranian proxy forces being pushed out of Syria as well, the cumulative effect has been humiliating for Iran's hardline leadership. Now the American military buildup, meant to intimidate Iran, is seen as the last straw. Pressure mounts from senior figures within the Tehran regime to act or face a political crisis. The supreme leader reluctantly gives his approval for a surprise attack on U.S. forces. This is meant to bloody America's nose and hopefully deter them from seeking further escalation. 2:45 a.m.
Right, this is so
May 12,
complicated.
2025. The scheduled attack order is broadcast to mobile launchers in the Fars province, along with above-ground and underground missile bases in Khuzestan. Heavy GPS spoofing acts as an electromagnetic shield around the bases, just in case the U.S. had caught wind of the attack and was launching a preemptive attack. But no such American attack is incoming. The attack order has remained secret, and Iran's missile forces have been on the highest alert already for months. The target is Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar, America's largest Middle Eastern facility. It is the key hub for U.S. Central Command, whose area of operations extends across all of Iran. The goal is to destroy the base's runways and adjoining runway infrastructure directly supporting air operations. The base's hardened aircraft shelters currently housing F-22 Raptors, B-1 Lancers, and F-35s are a secondary target. The air traffic control tower is also slated for destruction, but the high-priority target is the U.S. CENTCOM command post, buried deep under the base. The strike package consists of 20 Zulfikar ballistic missiles, 20 Desfo ballistic missiles, 10 Sajil ballistic missiles, 15 Fateh Mobin missiles, and 20 Shahed 136 loitering munitions.
There are all these different types of missiles. Like, I didn't realize it was that complicated. Like, you guys there's just so many different. I'm guessing these are all for different purposes. Like, wow, okay. Like, this stuff is deeper than way deeper than I already. Obviously, it's gonna be deeper than I thought. I only know surface level stuff.
15 Fateh Mobin missiles and 20 Shahed 136 loitering munitions. Defending Al Udeid is a THAAD battery and 3 Patriot batteries, augmented recently with reinforcements from the continental United States. The base also sports several CRAM systems for last-ditch defense around key installations. Out at sea, 2 American Aegis-equipped ships patrol the waters. Mobile launchers in the Fars province are the first to fire, quickly followed by launches from 2 of Iran's underground missile bases in Khuzestan. The missiles are prepped and fired completely from underground, with personnel loading new missiles into the firing silos without ever exposing themselves or their missiles to open sky. The fiery plumes of the missile's rocket engines are immediately spotted by loitering American infrared satellites. Dozens of signatures are registered in the first 20 seconds. An alert is immediately sent to the U.S. National Military Command Center in Washington, and from there to U.S. CENTCOM headquarters in Tampa, Florida. The alert is then forwarded to Al Udeid, and all regional American military bases,
Whoa.
even as far south as Diego Garcia.
Whoa.
Within seconds of the first wave of missiles firing, 3 small civilian ships just off the shore of Qatar began firing missiles of their own. These are
On
Iran's
ships?
Fateh Mobin, 29.5 feet long infrared homing missiles that can be used to attack land targets or in the anti-ship role. They're also small enough to be loaded into...
Wait. They're infrared homing, so they can actually be specifically... Yo, this Call of Duty is like... It's real life. This isn't Call of Duty. This is actually real life. This is a Predator missile that could be used to... Well, that's what they call it in Call of Duty. Predator missile that could be used to actually target stuff. I didn't even know those things exist. See how much I know? I don't even know anything about this stuff. And I'm sure... I'll love what you guys think about this so far as well, because... I don't know if you think this is accurate or if you think this is like misinformation. So yeah, there's also that. Take it with a pinch of salt.
Used to attack land targets or in the anti-ship role. They're also small enough
this
to
is
be loaded
hypothetical.
into cargo containers and disguised as regular cargo, giving them a huge element of surprise. The Fateh Mobin are targeting the American air defense radars and satellite dishes, hoping to blind the U.S. defense against the rest of the incoming missiles. Also lifting off from civilian ships just off the coast is a swarm of drones. Some of these are small drones that'll be used to monitor the attack and feed back intelligence to Iranian military commanders. But from containers right on the ship's decks, a swarm of 20 Shahed 136 drones are unleashed. Each container holds 5 of the drones. They're launched using compact rocket boosters, one after the other, before switching to their rear propellers and diving into formation. The drones accelerate to 115 miles per hour, well behind the subsonic Fateh Mobin missiles. Both, however, take the same approach to their targets. After an initial arc up into the air, they dive for the wave tops and then ride right along the sea, staying under American radar. The only warning the Americans get is a brief alert as Patriot air defense radar spots the missiles and drones on their initial launch. An alert has rung out across the base, and American soldiers rush to the hardened bunkers rated to withstand missile attacks. Pilots, meanwhile, rush to their aircraft as air crews heroically ignore orders to seek shelter and instead scramble to get aircraft ready for takeoff. If the aircraft can be moved off the vulnerable flight line and put into the sky, they have a greater chance of survival. The Iranians choose an opportune time to strike. The hardened shelters are filled to capacity, leaving many American planes sitting out in the open. As the Fateh Mobin missiles approach at almost supersonic speed, air defense radar begins to track them. For the first phase of their attack, they've hidden below the horizon thanks to the curvature of the Earth. But as they get closer, they lose that cover and are spotted. However, they've managed to come to within just a few dozen miles by now, and they're moving just shy of the speed of sound. Patriot interceptors fire off, but there's no time for a second volley. Of the 15 incoming missiles, 9 are destroyed by Patriot interceptors. CRAM stations light up the sky as the missiles slip inside of the Patriots' engagement envelope, shooting out tungsten into the sky at a fearsome rate. The sky lights up with laser-like fire from their tracers, and 3 more explosions light up the dark as the CRAMs strike true. But 3 of the missiles slip past U.S. defenses. Using AI, they designate themselves to priority targets. 2 missiles slam straight into the air traffic control tower, destroying it completely. The 3rd missile homes in on a Patriot radar and knocks it out of the fight. Iran was hoping for greater success from the first wave of the surprise attack, but the destruction of the air traffic control tower will seriously hamper American efforts to coordinate air operations. And while the base has multiple air defense radars to protect it, knocking one offline will put a dent in the U.S.'s ability to defend against the rest of the incoming threats. The Sajid missiles arrive next.
So far this hypothetical is sounding crazy. Like, let's just say this actually happens, which hasn't yet, or it may not. I don't even know how realistic this could be, but it's sparking up to be a very interesting turn of events. All right, let's see how this continues, man.
To defend against the rest of the incoming threats. The Sajid missiles arrive next,
serious stuff.
Moving at hypersonic speeds as they drop down on the base from an extremely high apogee. Patriot interceptors fire off, but the missiles are moving fast. 8 out of the 10 missiles are destroyed. The other 2 strike a fuel tank in one of the hardened shelters, destroying the F-22 inside. The depot explodes, setting off a fire that threatens to spread to adjoining fuel tanks. Despite the still ongoing strikes, firefighting forces brave the onslaught to attempt to avert a full-blown catastrophe.
No way.
Out at sea, thanks to networked defenses, the Navy's 2 Aegis-equipped vessels begin lending their own support to the base's defense. The Shahed drones are targeted and destroyed. Only 2 of them manage to slip through. Meanwhile, the rest of Iran's missiles are arriving in numbers, greeted high in the atmosphere by American interceptors. A fireworks show results as missiles and interceptors collide at hypersonic speeds. The debris itself...
If that's actually happening in real life, like, would people be able to see the missiles in space I said in space, in the atmosphere just exploding? I didn't even know they could have these like missile walls in the sky like that. I didn't even know that, but I mean that makes okay. This is intense.
Show results as missiles and interceptors collide at hypersonic speeds. The debris itself becoming deadly to anyone caught out in the open as it spreads out over several square miles. Another 2 hardened aircraft shelters are struck, and multiple F-35s are caught on the flight line and destroyed. The Shahed drones that survived to arrive at the base find the CRAM systems to be out of ammunition and dip low to strike at exposed aircraft. The entire attack is over in less than half an hour. Most of Iran's weapons have been intercepted, and yet the U.S. has already lost nearly $500 million in aircraft alone. Damage to the base will mount to several billion dollars. It'll take days for basic operations to begin again, and weeks for normal operations to resume. One American pilot is killed along with several ground crew, and dozens of Americans suffer traumatic brain injuries from the shock of the explosions. The debris kills one civilian outside of the base and wounds several others, causing outrage from Qatar. The question is, what happens next? While the previous scenario may have been...
And it's crazy as well because it literally just takes like one thing like that for people to now just spread it into something that sparks something crazy happening on a bigger scale. At least how it comes across.
It is very much a real possibility, and Iran is more than capable of pulling off such an attack. Knowing that they're outclassed by the U.S. conventionally, Iran has historically sought out asymmetrical ways of countering American conventional power. The use of a large missile force and drones is one of those ways, with some small enough to be camouflaged as civilian containers, just for such a surprise attack. Currently, America's options for attacking Iran are limited. Despite all its power, the U.S. very much needs the support of allies and partners, and at the moment, it is not getting it. Nations like Jordan and Saudi Arabia may not be friends of Tehran, but they also don't want to see a regional war in their own backyard. The collateral damage and resulting refugee crisis is enough to deter those nations from greenlighting a U.S. attack on Iran. This is why their airspace remains closed to any American warplane on its way to Iran. This is a big problem for American warplanes.
That's not good.
Because Iran has a formidable air defense capability. The nation suffers from a mix of old and new technology, but it still presents a significant threat to U.S. planes carrying out an attack, especially when their avenues of approach to their target are limited and thus well known. With enough air search radars in one location, even the stealthy B-2 is bound to be spotted. And this is why a successful B-2 mission requires very careful planning around enemy air defenses rather than straight through them. A land war is out of the question, as the U.S. has no desire to get involved in another land war in the Middle East so soon. Iran's 610,000 active-duty troops also poses a significant challenge, mostly because they can do something that Iraq's military couldn't do when it faced a U.S. threat twice in its history: strike directly at American staging areas. Iran was a keen observer of the First Gulf War and the Second Invasion of Iraq, learning valuable lessons about how to defend against the American military. Chief amongst those lessons is that under no circumstances can you allow the U.S. to stage its forces prior to an invasion. Once the U.S. troops arrive in theater in large numbers, it's impossible to remove them. Thus, Iran invested heavily into its massive missile programs, giving it the ability to strike at all possible staging areas that the U.S. could use in an invasion of Iran. It doesn't matter how much stronger the U.S. military is. Superiority means nothing if you can't even get your troops into the fight. America's options are thus limited in a war with Iran to the use of air and missile strikes. These are unlikely to achieve the U.S.'s goal of either a regime change or a course correction on both nuclear and missile programs. Yet the Iranian regime faces one key weakness it didn't before. The Iranian people are growing increasingly tired of the regime, and they could become susceptible to U.S. psychological warfare and influence operations. America's strategy to defeat Iran would thus likely revolve around the destruction of military targets and power plants in the country, neutralizing military power, but also destroying the means to produce electricity. An increasingly angry citizenry would then likely rise up and demand a change of regime. Iran is already facing electricity shortages that are deeply unpopular with the population. It's not just electricity, it's also natural gas for heating and cooking, along with a shortage of gasoline. On average, Iran has a 20% deficit of electricity, a 25% natural gas deficit, and gasoline availability can be spotty at best. The
Wow.
energy crisis the nation finds itself in is one of its own making, along with the cost of financial sanctions by the international community. In order to avoid a full-blown public rebellion, Iran invests as much as 25% of its GDP each year on subsidies for energy, making it dirt cheap for the public. But that is only when it's actually available. These subsidies also sap the Iranian checkbook to the point that it's unable to keep up payments on the import of energy from the few places willing to trade with Iran. The energy subsidies may make the Iranian people complacent and prevent them from rebelling, but it also means that there is no financial incentive for the private sector to invest into energy development. The problem is a self-feeding one, growing worse every year. Due to a lack of investment, Iran can't develop more energy infrastructure, and yet it also can't afford to continue providing the energy that already exists. What few attempts there are at expansion of energy infrastructure are often met with huge inefficiencies and corruption. A lot of money is siphoned off by corrupt politicians or simply lost in inefficiency. The fact that Iranian gas is so cheap also means that it is creating a black market of its own making. It can be very profitable for enterprising Iranians to simply smuggle a significant amount of gasoline out of the country to sell to neighbors, decreasing available supply inside Iran itself. And then there's Iran's poor foreign policy decisions. For almost a decade, Iran provided Syria with up to 100,000 barrels of oil a day, completely for free, even as its own citizens were experiencing gasoline shortages. The charity was at the time supporting Iranian interests inside Syria, but with the collapse of the national government there and the ousting of Iranian proxies, the energy investment is now a decade-long foible with no payoff. The energy crisis spirals into other areas of the Iranian economy, increasing prices everywhere from construction to food and limiting economic activity. Iran is basically a pressure cooker that's about ready to explode. A single successful American military campaign against the regime that avoids heavy civilian casualties could be all that is needed for a major regime change in the country. And that's why Iran has taken its own defense so seriously despite all of its budget problems. Without the help of allies and partners in the region, the US may be able to topple the Tehran regime, but at significant cost to itself. An America First policy that ignores allies has turned what should be an easy tactical victory into a potential minefield of consequences for the US and the region at large. What do you think would be the biggest risk if the US and Iran actually went to war? Would it stay regional or spiral into something much bigger? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Now go check out Iran's World War III plan or
Okay.
click this other video instead.
Wow. Okay. So this is a very interesting video. Again, this is hypothetical. So this is like obviously not happened yet, but it's just, well, not happened, but as I say, this is like a plausible, it's seemingly plausible set of events that could spark the start. But from what I'm aware, I don't think it's gotten to that point yet. Or correct me if I'm wrong. And you know, it's ironic as well, because this video that I'm posting today might not age well in a sense. I'm thinking, yeah, wasn't I just saying like a week ago, like, yeah, it's probably not gonna be like that, or it's probably not happening yet, whatever. Then it just ends up happening. But no, long story short, guys, it's interesting. At least in this video, a couple things I learned in this is, even through this video, it doesn't seem like it's as simple as just, oh, World War III is gonna start. Like, I feel like there's a lot of implications that, like, a lot of dominoes have to fall in place, and even then, within that, a lot of people have to be in a certain headspace to even want to continue with something like that. And I also feel like it's a timing thing. So I'll just be careful, because you know YouTube has a way of just feeding you guys with stuff that you've already seen, and then just reinforcing whatever perspective that you or bias you may already have and not even realize. And not to say that things aren't looking tense these days, but it's to say it may not be as intense as it may be shaped up to be online. But of course, with all of these kinds of videos, it's a matter of like making sure we all do our own research and look into these things as well as, and not just believe the headlines. I guess that's just my overall thing with this video, because I get like right now this whole thing is hot right now, which is kind of why I wanted to look into it, to bring you guys along with me. But it's to say, it's so easy for things to get blown way out of proportion, and before you know it, you're so concerned, you're doing all of this stuff, and I don't know, just like it might lead to some consequences and stuff. And I feel like, and my whole thing as well, I feel like, especially when it comes to the media, I feel like they the way they control people as well, but they can get people to fear stuff. And the more they can get you to worry, it's like you're very easily manipulated and stuff. So already when I see headlines like this, or World War III, I'm already naturally skeptical. I'm like, okay, let's calm down now. Let's just see, what was really saying here. And like, let's check out some videos. Let's look more into the stuff. Let me try and see what other people are saying that I might not come across, just so I can get a more grounded perspective. But look, I'll be very curious to see what you guys thought about this, aside from my own. Maybe a lot of you guys may know quite a bit more about this than I do. Do you think these set of events are reasonable? They're likely? They're unlikely? And let me know what you thought about some of this stuff when you heard about the whole Iran and USA thing. I know a lot of you guys are watching from the USA. Like, let me know how this has impacted you. Get in my comments below. Look, comment down a red heart. So I know you made this point as well. And I would love to know what you guys think about this situation, of course. But yeah, look, as always, it's been a curious video, to say the least. But yeah, guys, shout out to you guys made this point. I love you guys. Stay tuned for more videos. Like the video before you done out. I've been your boy JayFlex, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.